The big shocker in this trailer, of course, the reappearance of Palpatine. What can you tell us about this? How long was this in the cards? Was this sort of in the blueprint from Episode 7?
This has been in the blueprint for a long time. Yeah, we had not landed on exactly how we might do that, but yes, it's
always to be in Episode 9.
Yeah.
Well, we can't say we didn't see this coming. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's your pal Noms here, and today, well, it's been confirmed what we already knew, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because I know a lot of people want to get my take on this. So, Daisy Ridley has recently spoken with, I think, a representative from Jimmy Kimmel Live, unless that's fat Jimmy Kimmel with some sort of enhancement, I don't know. Anyway, Daisy Ridley was getting interviewed, and she went on to discuss the plans Disney and Kathleen Kennedy had for their main strong female heroine, Rey, and all the sneak peeks and all the Easter eggs and setups and teasers that we had over the years, and every fire that was flamed and kept fans on the edge of their seats anticipating what the hell was going to happen next. And she told us and confirmed exactly what we already knew, is that Disney had no plans whatsoever. Roll the clip.
I ask you, I just found this out. Have you been keeping Rey's secret from the beginning? Did you know about the parentage? Like, tell me about that journey of when you found out.
No. At the beginning, there was toying with like an Obi-Wan connection, and then it really went, there were like different versions, and then it really went to that she was no one. And then it came to Episode 9, and JJ pitched me the film and was like, oh yeah, Palpatine's granddaddy. And I was like, awesome. And then 2 weeks later, he was like, oh, we're not sure. So it kept changing. So then even I was filming, and I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be.
So let's timeline this, and then I'll get into it. So George Lucas, in a hasty decision, $4 billion, sells Star Wars to Bob Iger, his supposed close friend. You can tell it was a hasty decision because George said many times he wanted to wash his hands of the franchise. $4 billion is nowhere near what Star Wars was truly worth. He gave all that money to charity. It wasn't about the money. And the vitriolic hatred from toxic online fans caused George to walk away from his project. That's why he sold so quickly. Not only that, but he trusted Bob Iger, because Bob Iger had apparently taken care of him in the past with one of his television shows, one of his animated projects from like the 80s or something. George said, Bob, if I'm ever going to sell, it's going to be to you. Which I think Bob approached him first, but George knew he was going to go with Bob regardless if he decided to sell. But when he did decide to sell, he signed over all of the stories that he had, all the possible future storylines they could do, and he gave him an outline for episodes 7, 8, and 9. Bob Iger said, without signing a contract, this was more of a handshake agreement as George's friend, okay, yeah, we'll do those. Give me the IP, make sure we can make money from it, and we'll do your stories. As we know, that did not happen. The plan that was meant to happen was thrown out by Bob Iger because he's like, George, we have the IP now, and if it wouldn't be the same if we let you take creative liberties. Like, what's the point of selling it to us if we can't do our own thing? And George's like, fine, I'm out of here then, whatever. So they had a plan. They threw it out to do their own thing because Bob Iger said they wanted to make something quintessentially Star Wars, cue The Force Awakens, which appeased every single one of those Lucas-hating, prequel-bashing online scum that just wanted A New Hope and the original trilogy fed to them on a goddamn loop. They ate it up, they paid their money, and beyond that, Disney had no plan. Daisy Ridley said, oh, I was going to be a Kenobi in the beginning, which is why she had that vision and why I could hear Obi-Wan's voice saying, these are your first steps. Kathleen Kennedy decided to, beyond that, hire a separate writer who was a creative madman who was also an egomaniac and honestly one of the most creatively bankrupt buffoons working in Hollywood today, Rian Johnson, who said, okay, I know there's like 30 years of lore that goes along with this franchise, but I'm going to make my own movie. Don't give a shit about the lore, don't give a shit about the history, don't give a shit about the fans, just subvert expectations and put a smile on your face in every single camera interview and don't acknowledge any of the criticism whatsoever. In fact, Ryan said, if I can't be famous through genius, I'll be infamous through incompetence. And then we got The Last Jedi. And The Last Jedi took Rey from a possible lineage to a beloved Star Wars character, or a possible lineage that made sense, into turning her into absolutely nobody. Now, most people hated this, myself included. I thought there was going to be a plan. I thought there was a plan. I thought J.J. Abrams in the beginning actually wrote Episode 8 and Rian Johnson directed it. But nope, that's actually the thing that broke the camel's back for me. When I found out that Rian wrote it as well, I was like, no, fuck this. Because that explains everything I had a grievance with. Because there was no, this guy went into business for himself and he made his own goddamn movie, and The Force Awakens essentially means nothing now. Now we have The Last Jedi and we're stuck with it. And The Last Jedi was so close-ended that Disney had nowhere to go. So we go from Rey's a Kenobi to Rey's nobody. It makes no sense. R.I.P. Luke Skywalker and Han Solo in the process, by the way. Those two characters had to die for this dumpster fire. And then, regrettably, also, rest her soul, Carrie Fisher passes away. And then Disney is truly screwed for Episode 9. And that's why you don't have multiple writers helming a project like Star Wars. You have a plan, you have an outline. Hell, George gave you guys one. That's what makes it so hilarious. George gave them a plan that would have saved their asses, made them a ton of money, and pulled their butts out of the fire. And Star Wars probably would have been relevant for another 10 years. Once they ran out of George's outlines, Star Wars would have probably plummeted to the ground through Disney's collective creative bankruptcy. Because they don't have a creative bone in their body, they don't understand the IP, and that's why pretty much everything they touch that isn't helmed by someone who actually wants to take inspiration from Lucas turns to absolute shit.
Like fucking King Midas in reverse here. Everything I touch turns to shit.
And it's worth noting that Disney didn't appoint Kathleen Kennedy. George Lucas actually appointed her. But to be fair to George, I can understand why he did that. They spent 30 years together. He kept her under his wing for 30 years. She was a close friend to Steven Spielberg. She was his coffee secretary for 30 years as well. He knew her well. She was one of his closest friends. And she's gone on public record saying the main thing is to protect these characters.
It's a very big universe I've created, and there's a lot of stories that are sitting in there.
The main thing is to protect these characters, make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them.
So that's what she said on camera. Imagine what she had to say off camera to George to make him put his mind at ease. And then what happened? She screwed him. She screwed him right over, and she burnt Star Wars to the ground. She couldn't helm a production to save her life. Like 90% of Star Wars projects have not had a squeaky clean production without directors being fired or reshoots or production problems or excessive money spent. The Last Jedi being the exception, and we all know what happened there. She said, Ryan, this is great stuff. Let's do this. Even though we already approved and made Force Awakens, let's do The Last Jedi because good stuff, Ryan. The fans hated it. Only for the crazies that loved Reylo for some reason did that abortion of a movie still have any fans behind it leading into Episode 9. Then Episode 9 rolls around, and well, what Daisy said, I guess, is just the cherry on the cake. We knew that there was no plan. We knew that Palpatine was never the end goal, for Rey anyway, in regards to the sequel trilogy. Maybe they would have brought him back or referenced him in Episode 9, but not like the way that they did. Daisy Ridley shows up on set and finds out that Palpatine is going to be Rey's grandfather. She found out when she went on set for the Rise of Skywalker shoot. And even then it wasn't entirely finalized. Wow. Just wow. It's just Disney. I've never seen a company that's so well off in terms of the IPs that they own, the money they make, that has a shitter reputation than Disney. Possibly EA, Electronic Arts, the video game publisher. But Disney, I guess, would have a lesser reputation than them because even though EA suck, Disney made an effort to appoint Electronic Arts, rated the worst company in America twice, to helm the Star Wars video game license, as opposed to a company that had been doing it for 30 years in LucasArts. So they double-crossed George. They get Star Wars for a steal prize. George just wanted them to use his outlines. There was a friendly agreement between the two heads of the sale. That's not held up. The plan goes to shit, and they press forward with a new trilogy that wasn't replaced with a secondary plan. Only 3 movies, 3 separate writers. Have at it, boys. Do whatever the hell you want. Who gives a crap if it makes sense? And thus we have the sequel trilogy dumpster fire. Like, The Rise of Skywalker was so bad that no one even talks about it anymore. But what's funny about all this is I've been browsing a bit of Twitter. The amount of people that are turning their backs on Disney now is just so glorious to behold. So satisfying. They all have to eat their words and they know it. And to prevent themselves from doing that, they're all suddenly turning and being like, yeah, screw Disney, Star Wars, they're bandwagon riding because they don't want to have to eat their words. I saw John Campier posted a video when he was one of the sequel trilogy's biggest defenders. I'm like, yeah, get it out of the way, eat your humble pie. I'm just glad it's finally... If this doesn't signify that it's over, then I don't know what does. There's no more debate regarding the sequel trilogy. It's done. It's over. It's finished. Disney blew it. They blew it. Daisy Ridley, and to Daisy Ridley's credit, I like Daisy Ridley. I think she's a great actress. She's not the best actress, but I think she's got a lot of potential. Anyway, this isn't the first time that Daisy Ridley has blown the whistle on Disney. It was actually coming from Daisy Ridley that Ryan didn't keep JJ's outline because, and I guess it's only poetic irony, that J.J. Abrams was appointed to do The Force Awakens and he kept a loose outline like George did. But that outline was thrown out by Rian Johnson, just like Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams threw out George Lucas's outline. And so whatever vision, if you want to call it that, J.J. had for Star Wars after The Force Awakens was ruined by Rian Johnson, who inserted his own vision. And I don't think Ryan, here's where I give J.J. a bit more props than Ryan. Ryan didn't even have an outline for Episode 9. He's just like, fuck it, I'm making my movie, peace out, y'all. And apparently... he baited Kathleen Kennedy so hard with his abortion of a movie that Kathleen Kennedy was, before the movie even released and performed, signed him over his own Star Wars trilogy, which I would be amazed if that ever gets made. Please let that trilogy never see the light of day. Anyway, as I previously said, Daisy Ridley, this isn't the first time. Like I said, she already gave us the detail that Ryan was an asshole who didn't try to work with JJ at all. JJ in episode 9 had to save face and say, yeah, Ryan did a good job, Ryan did okay, even though he couldn't keep his story straight. JJ, on 2 separate occasions, has given 2 separate answers of what shocked him the most about The Last Jedi and what Ryan did. On one occasion, he says, Phasma dying was the most shocking thing Ryan did. In another interview, JJ says that he was most shocked with what Ryan did with Luke Skywalker and his character. Yeah, that, I think, is the most accurate one, because it's what we were all thinking when we first saw that movie. Ryan butchered that icon.
What surprised you most? He made a lot of surprising story choices in Last Jedi. What surprised you most about that?
I think the most surprising thing, for me was the way he treated Luke. That was the thing that was, I think, for me the most fun was how he went for something that was entirely counterintuitive.
Meanwhile, one thing I find interesting is you set so much up in episode 7. We were waiting for what's going to happen with the saber being passed to Luke, right, and then Ryan obviously threw it over his shoulder, and then the Rey's parents thing. Out of everything that happened in 8, what was the most surprising twist for you as the person who made 7? Which one kind of threw you for a loop?
Well, there were things, obviously. I'd read the script. It wasn't like I just went to go see Last Jedi, but I saw what Ryan was doing. What I loved about his approach was that he was just subverting all expectations.
Yeah. Anybody else's bullshit detector just go off?
Everywhere you looked. And I think that maybe the biggest surprise was not the biggest, you think Luke dying maybe was the biggest surprise, or, I guess spoiler alert, but Ren killing Snoke. There were certain things that felt like they were, weirdly for me, the thing that was the most surprising was Phasma dying.
You serious?
I think the most surprising thing, for me was the way he treated Luke. But I guess for me the biggest surprise, weirdly, was Phasma dying.
Yeah.
If you want more details on J.J. Abrams and him not keeping his story straight and the lead up to episode 9, you can check out my Massacre series on it. I've linked it below. It's 8 videos, so go nuts. But yeah, Daisy blew the whistle originally, and now she's blowing the whistle again because she's wrapped up her trilogy. She said, I think this disconnect, and not to mention some of the Reylo crazies out there, are the reason that she said she didn't have any desire to return to Rey. She said she wanted to quit Rey, and I was originally disappointed with this because I was still high on The Force Awakens at the time, but it says Daisy Ridley doesn't want to come back after episode 9. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. They could, make her into this awesome female Jedi character, and they can give her her own story arc in a new EU or something. granted, I wasn't really familiar. And, you know, we all know the story with what happened to the old EU. Let's not get into that. But, I mean, it's really showing now. I think she hates what Star Wars turned her life into. I think she likes Star Wars. And she was kind of on it at the start to be, like, inserted into Star Wars. Like, I figure that's every actor's dream until they actually do Star Wars. And then, you know, you could either take it in stride like Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford, or you could end up like, you know, Jake Lloyd, God forbid. And I think the only difference here is that, you know, Rey's older than Jake was, and she knows how to deal with it a bit better, and she knows to walk away, and she still wants to be an actress, but goddamn, this would have been a nightmarish ordeal for her. And that's not just with Daisy. John Boyega has also been extremely vocal after getting out of his contract. These two, it's very evident that these two, with how carefree they say these things, you know, first John Boyega about how, you know, his casting was based on race and how he was disappointed with the direction they, you know, took Finn's character. Finn was a complete waste. Let's all agree there. Holy shit. He had been so vocal about his displeasure with Disney, and now Daisy Ridley comes out with this, and she is oh so specific. She didn't hold anything back. She's like, yep, this is what happened. They had no clue. I was a Kenobi, then I was no one, then I was a Palpatine, because blah. Yeah, it's so satisfying to see the cast members actually come out and say how much they despise what happened and how it made absolutely no sense and the true dirty details behind the scenes. Because Disney, every time anyone gets in league with Disney, they have to keep their clean corporate image. They got to make everyone sign a non-disparagement clause. And, you know, George can't speak out about Disney. I'm sure, you know, by all accounts, George Lucas hates The Last Jedi. He hates what the franchise has turned into, and he can't speak about it, which breaks my heart. It really does. Because that must suck. Everyone who's worked behind the scenes with Disney on The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, hell, even Mark Hamill himself had to backtrack on his comments when he said he hated The Last Jedi. I mean, he didn't say it outright. He just said he disagreed. He fundamentally disagreed with what happened to Luke Skywalker's character. We all know what that's code for. And then he had to backtrack with his tweet saying, no, it was great. Ryan made a fantastic movie, blah, blah, blah. Disney are true scum. They're true corporate soulless scum. They took George Lucas's beloved IP. They ruined it with their garbage. They silenced anyone who had anything to say about it and their true ways of doing business. They kept an incompetent witch like Kathleen Kennedy in charge, who they should have vetted for her qualifications, especially since Disney pretty much completely reformed Lucasfilm after George left. They completely axed LucasArts and replaced them with EA and outsourced. They rehauled the EU writing staff, axed the EU to make their own EU, canceled the Clone Wars, threw out George's sequel trilogy plan. The list goes on and on. It honestly blows my mind how Disney kept Kathleen Kennedy in charge. Not only that, but they extended her contract. They extended it. How? How does that happen? They extended Kathleen Kennedy's contract, but they were more than happy to do mass layoffs of Lucasfilm and just refit the company with their own bullshit. But Kathleen Kennedy is the one they kept in charge. And then she completely totals the production of several films. They made money with The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi is vitriolically hated right out of the gate, and nothing is done about her. Nothing. And then we get The Rise of Skywalker, and there's absolutely no plan. And they're still making their fucking mind up. Absolutely atrocious. I mean, again, The Last Jedi really screwed the pooch, and I can understand JJ having to come up with something for a finale, something to give us a meaningful climax to the trilogy, and so he had to resurrect Palpatine, or he had to bring in someone to be the villain. So I understand where he's coming from on that front, but the fact that he didn't even know when Daisy showed up for filming speaks wonders about what a train wreck Disney Star Wars has truly been. It's over. There's no more debate. Disney should be embarrassed. They deserve more embarrassment. Their hypocrisy doesn't end. Their incredibly disgusting business practices never end. The amount of art they bought and ruined for the sake of $1 just doesn't seem to end. Who knows what they're going to buy? Probably DreamWorks, God forbid. I fear for Shrek. Please, if there is a God, please don't let Disney buy DreamWorks. And yeah, Disney, in my opinion, deserves to crash and burn hard. Honestly, with how much they've totaled Star Wars, I still love Star Wars. I still want Star Wars to thrive, but not under Disney. Not under Disney. I can accept that George isn't helming it anymore. I will always consider George's Star Wars work to be the true canon, regardless of what comes after, good or bad. but I still want to see the franchise flourish. I know how important it is to people. It's very important to me. And if people want to make good fan fictions, that's fine, but not Disney. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Daisy Ridley, for coming forward and telling us what really happened behind the scenes. You deserve a medal. Again, you confirm what we already knew, but at least now it's finally over. At least I hope it is. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this little rant. I apologize if I was a bit slurry. I did my best. This week's been kicking my ass with videos, I'm trying to get a bunch of projects done that are simultaneously going on. And then this happens, and I was like, yeah, I got to make a video about this because I have a lot to say. I know you guys want to hear me say it. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are as satisfied with this revelation as I am. Appreciate your time as always. Bye for now. I'll talk to you soon.